Alright, so picture this, it's the year 1778. The American Revolutionary War is raging on and the newly declared United States is struggling against the full might of the British Empire. After several brutal years of fighting and with dwindling resources, the Americans know they need more than just courage. They need allies, big ones. And who's that glimmering savior on the horizon? France. Yep, the Americans are about to go international with this fight. Buckle up, because the story of the Treaty of Amity and Commerce is one of intrigue, strategy, and a little international backroom deal-making that would change the entire course of the revolution. By 1778, the American colonies had been in full-blown rebellion against British rule for nearly 3 years. The rebels had won some big symbolic victories, like the Battle of Saratoga in late 1777, but they were also hanging by a thread. The Continental Army was freezing, starving, and in desperate need of supplies. Morale was at rock bottom, and even George Washington himself knew that without serious international support, their cause might soon collapse. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, France had been watching the rebellion closely. See, France and Britain had been rivals for forever. The French, who were still nursing a grudge from their defeat in the 7 Years' War, where they'd lost huge chunks of their empire to the British, saw this American rebellion as their golden ticket to strike back. If they played their cards right, they could weaken their old enemy while gaining a new ally in the process. So, after Saratoga, the French decided to make a move. Now, getting France to officially support the Americans wasn't exactly a walk in the park. It took months of secret meetings, strategic flattery, and downright begging. Enter Benjamin Franklin, the American representative in France, a brilliant diplomat who was as savvy as he was charming. Franklin knew that he needed to win over not just the French government, but also the French public, and he did so by playing up the American image of rugged freedom fighters taking on a tyrannical empire. It didn't hurt that Franklin was a bit of a celebrity in France. His wit, intellect, and, let's be real, his quirky appearance made him a hit among the French elite. He knew how to work a room, and he worked it hard. The French Foreign Minister Charles Gravier, Comte de Vergennes, was on board, but he needed a few more assurances before he committed France to a war with Britain. The French wanted to know that the Americans were serious about independence, and that they could actually stand a chance against the British with French aid. Saratoga provided that proof. After months of tense back-and-forth negotiations, the Treaty of Amity and Commerce was signed on February 6, 1778, but it wouldn't be officially ratified by the Continental Congress until May 4, 1778. Now, this wasn't just any treaty. This was the first time the United States was recognized as an independent nation by a major European power. Imagine the buzz. It was like the ultimate legitimacy badge for the fledgling country. The Treaty of Amity and Commerce established formal trade agreements between the United States and France, allowing American merchants to trade freely with the French in ways that would massively boost the war effort. More importantly, it was backed up by another treaty, the Treaty of Alliance. This was where France agreed to enter the war on the side of the Americans if Britain refused peace. Spoiler alert. Britain definitely wasn't going to make peace anytime soon. With the treaty ratified in May, the Franco-American alliance sent shockwaves across Europe. Suddenly, Britain wasn't just fighting a ragtag bunch of colonies. They were up against a major European power with a full navy, well-trained soldiers, and decades of military experience. Other European powers like Spain and the Netherlands started giving the side-eye to Britain, re-evaluating their own stances on the conflict. This was about more than just America's independence. It was a geopolitical earthquake that was shifting alliances and setting the stage for a global conflict. The Americans now had a serious morale boost. For the troops in the field, the alliance meant more than just support. It meant they weren't alone. Supplies, money, and most importantly, soldiers were soon to arrive. The treaty literally gave the revolution a fighting chance. By the time French troops and ships started arriving on American shores in 1779 and beyond, the Revolution was a different war altogether. With French naval power, the Americans could actually challenge British control of the seas. The French military leaders brought new tactics and expertise that proved invaluable in the battles to come. One of the most iconic outcomes of this alliance would be at Yorktown in 1781, where the combined Franco-American forces would trap the British Army, forcing them into surrender. But that's getting a bit ahead. The treaty itself set the stage for this victory by creating the framework that allowed France and the United States to coordinate a massive transatlantic military campaign. The Treaty of Amity and Commerce wasn't just a wartime deal, it was a foundation for the US-France relationship that would last for years. It showed the world that the American experiment in self-government had backing from a major European power, legitimizing the United States on the global stage. Now, in typical historical irony, the French alliance would later prove complicated for both nations. Remember the French Revolution and the whole America? Where's our support situation? But at that moment, the treaty represented a massive step forward for the United States. It was a beacon of hope and a symbol of international solidarity. So, there you have it, the Treaty of Amity and Commerce with France. It wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a game-changing alliance that gave the American Revolution the support it desperately needed. From Franklin's Charm Offensive in Paris to the arrival of French ships on American shores, the treaty represented a new chapter in both American and world history. This was where the United States took its first real steps onto the international stage, backed by a European superpower that believed in their cause, or at least saw an opportunity to strike at their old rival.